Cars won't satisfy you. At least, not like you think they will. This is my 2011 Mustang GT, and it's the fastest car that I've ever owned and arguably the most fun. So, I must be so satisfied, right? Well, I do love it, but it's not really that simple. Because as much as cars might mean to us, this is ultimately still an inanimate object. So is this, and so is this. I love cars, and cars are a great outlet to try to find some form of satisfaction or fun. But as much as I love them, they might not give you what you want. The car world is genuinely one of the most broad hobbies in the entire world. It spans from dirt cheap $1,500 rusted out Civics with eBay turbo kits up to fully Mansory or Liberty Walk bodied 2,000 horsepower twin turbo Lamborghinis, Bugatti Chirons, Koenigsegg Agueras, Buick Rendezvous. The problem with the car world is that when you're in it as much as a lot of us end up being, as much satisfaction as you might find from it, sometimes it's equaled with just as much frustration. For instance, this is my 1997 Dakota. Just recently, I decided to give it a tune-up and I replaced the spark plugs, plug wires, distributor cap, rotor, transpan gasket, engine air filter, and I did a seafoam treatment on the engine. Not that any of that was super labor intensive, but it was certainly time consuming, and how did it reward me? It broke. Again, in a different way. And I already have the parts to fix it, and it shouldn't be difficult. But not everyone is equipped with that sort of disappointment after putting that much effort in. Not every hobby is equal effort to equal result, and cars are a perfect example of that. Building a car even. You might have a car that you've lusted after since you were 10 years old just to buy it and realize that it doesn't make power very easily, or there's not a lot of aftermarket support for it. And a lot of times there's even deeper issues at play. And it's incredibly difficult, whether it be because of human nature or because of attitudes that are pushed so heavily on information that we consume every single day, just to be content with what you have, just to be happy with what you've been able to accomplish. It's a nasty spiral. Because sure, it's frustrating when you put a lot of work into something and then what you're met back with is another failure. But it's arguably even more frustrating when you work your butt off to finally buy something that you've wanted for a long time. Maybe you, like me, bought a 2011 Mustang GT. You wanted that sweet, sweet Coyote. And you do like it, you love it, but you find that all of a sudden, now you're lusting after the next car. All of a sudden, a 2013 GT500 seems like a really solid upgrade, or a GT350. And in a world where everyone seems to have everything, or at least that's the way that it's portrayed to us with the content that we consume on YouTube, how can we ever feel satisfied with what we have? Sure, you might have a Miata and you think it's a lot of fun, but it's not a Mustang GT, it's not a Camaro SS, and maybe you have a Camaro SS, or a Challenger RT, or whatever it might be, but it's not a Hellcat. Maybe you have a Hellcat, but it's not the new GT500. Maybe you have a GT500, but it's not an M5. Maybe you have an M5, but it's not a Ferrari 458. Maybe you have a Ferrari 458, but it's not the Ferrari 488 Pista. Maybe you've worked your entire life to afford that beautiful 488 Pista just to roll up to a stoplight next to a guy in a Bugatti Chiron Supersport, and suddenly all your satisfaction fades away and you don't know where to go from there. So what's the solution? Look at things realistically. If something's frustrating you, take a step back and approach it when you can maybe have a better attitude toward the situation. Or in the case of feeling like you always need the next car, the next thing, try to think about all the reasons that made you buy that car in the first place, all the reasons why you appreciate it. Savor those moments when something just hits you, whether it's just a particularly crisp shift, or a brief glance across the steering wheel when the fading evening light hits it just right, and your shoulders relax, you lean back in your seat and you just smile and think to yourself, this is my car. And in those moments, nothing else really matters. The car that you're sitting in doesn't matter. Whether it's a Nissan GTR, a
Golf GTI, a Nissan Murano, or a golf cart. The feeling that you get from those moments, try to remind yourself each time that you find yourself finding it difficult to be satisfied with your car. No matter what anyone else says or makes you feel, this is your car and you should love it. Be realistic with yourself. There's a fundamental greediness that is just so prevalent in first world human beings that is hard to avoid, even if you don't try to be a generally greedy person. You always want to stretch just to that next thing. There's always a someday. And you know, there's the saying that someday never comes, but sometimes even when it does, you're responsible for pushing it even further away. Say you're 16 years old and you've been trying at your first job to work for, the entire summer to see if you can scrape together enough money to buy a beat up 350Z, and you're so happy. A few years later, you get a better job and you see a new Supra at the Toyota dealership and you think, if I just made a little bit more money, I could stretch and I could make those payments work for me. And maybe a few years more down the road, you do have a new Supra, or you have a new Nissan Z, and you're driving down the road and you drive past the BMW dealership and you see a new M4 and you think, man, if I just had a little bit more money, I could get one of those and then I'd really be satisfied. That cycle never really ends. I always support people that are hard workers and that are on a grind, but keep in mind that a material object does not define your work ethic, and your accomplishments should not be narrowed down to a singular object. That is not what is most important. Because the thing is, I'm standing here watching these videos of these YouTubers with these Lamborghinis, McLarens, Porsches, and I don't feel like I'll ever own any of those cars, no matter how hard I try. But someone in a different position than me could be watching this video thinking no matter how hard they try, they may never own a Mustang GT. And you know what? That's okay. What makes you love cars? Are you in it for you, or are you in it for other people? Maybe you can't afford all the crazy mods that you'd love to do to your car. I understand how that feels. Or maybe you can't afford a car that you view cooler, fancier, faster, whatever than the car that you currently own. That's okay. That doesn't make you less of a car enthusiast. It's a reminder that while cars can be something that's fun, that can help aid you in being satisfied in one way or another, they're not going to do it on their own. At the end of the day, no matter how much these things mean to us, they're still just a bunch of metal and rubber, no matter what car they are. And next time that you see a car and you think, man, I'd love to own that, but I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, that's okay. Appreciate it for what it is. Be happy for that person that they were able to accomplish that. But just keep in mind that as you shut off your phone and walk out to your driveway, or you walk past the car you saw on the side of the street to the parking lot that you parked in, there's another car waiting for you. It's your car. And no matter what happens with it, it's there to aid you in your journey in the world of cars.
It's not gonna give you satisfaction, but it sure will help you have fun on the road to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more car videos of this kind. I would very much appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys all next time.